Confessions from a Las Vegas Hairstylist with Mimi Miller. Yeah, that's me. Vegas, baby. They don't call this place Sin City for nothing. You know the statement everybody says, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, I don't recall anyone asking me to sign papers or pay me to keep a vow of silence with what really goes on here. Why should I keep all these juicy experiences locked up in my mind? I have heard too many people's deep, dark secrets and fulfilled fantasies that I didn't ask to hear. I didn't want to hear, but I was told anyway. Now, it's time for me to make some confessions. Although some of my experiences have been real good, more than a few are real bad and a couple of things got real ugly. My name is Mimi Miller, also known as Mimi Styles. I have been a master multicultural hairstylist, hair extension specialist, and educator for 16 years. Yeah, that means I am damn good at what I do. Strangely, I have hung out and been a little too close with most of my clients. I have been invited to their homes for backyard barbecues, weddings, receptions, concerts, and dinner parties at restaurants. I have visited some in the hospital, gone to a few of their funerals, wrote them letters in prison, vacationed with some, slept with a couple of them. Just a couple of them, okay? Babysat their kids, they babysat mine, hooked some up with stuff I shouldn't have hooked them up with, and vice versa. Other than my 3 children, my clients have been closer than my family. But don't get it twisted. I came here to get paid and have an exceptional life. Like I said, I got 3 kids. I was a single parent who came here in September of 2001 from Detroit, Michigan, straight out of low-income housing in crime-infested neighborhoods and harsh below-zero winters. This was my land of opportunity, my way to get out of the hood with my kids and live the glamorous life. I'm a decent businesswoman, but I consider myself a true hustler. I have triumphed over a lot of obstacles in my life, and I was from the hair capital of the world. So when I found out there was a shortage of good hairstylists from a family member who lived here, and that the sun shines 310 days out of the year, I was driving a moving truck with my car on a tow dolly 11 months later. I came here before the recession. This place was booming with business. Money was flowing through here like a water in a rushing river. You could get a decent job, a nice crib, and a car with bad credit. Trust me, I know. In a lively 24-hour city. Perfect place for me to settle down. At least I thought it was. Nothing about my life has been boring, basic, or even casual. It's been one freaking soap opera after another. This book is my release and my peace. I want to let go of things I have allowed to shape my choices in a negative way. It's disturbing for me looking back over the craziness that has surrounded my life. I was fascinated with the drama, but I can't take it no more, and no longer will I accept it. This is my truth as I see it. The cold style of this book is deliberate. These are my experiences as I felt it, and these are the people whom I lived it with. Now, I must confess. Proud to be a hooker. This chapter was the first and hardest for me to write. When I sat down to type out the words, I started sobbing from the pain and grief I knew this woman had been through in her life, and how much she affected my own when I thought about her. Even though I hadn't drunk wine or liquor for about 5 or 6 years, that evening I went to the store and got a bottle of Pinot Grigio, came back home and drank 2 glasses of it to help calm my nerves. That's pretty much all it took for me to get tipsy, but that wine was so good, I ended up drinking the whole bottle. Then I went back every other day for the next 2 months just to help me cope. I didn't know how this experience manifested, but I just couldn't write without it. The last time I saw Nina alive, Nina is what I'll call her to protect the identity of the damn sure not so innocent. I had to sew some hair weft extensions back in her head after her man beat the hell out of her and ripped them from her scalp a couple of days after I put them in. This was a very serious matter. I was grossed out on the phone when she called and asked me to do it. I didn't want to touch her. It was both unsanitary for me and risky for her not to go to the hospital. I tried to convince her to go, and she just calmly told me, "Mimi, hookers don't go to the hospital on purpose." If it wasn't fixed immediately, she would get beat down worse than what he had already done. So that evening, at the salon where I had a private room, she stumbled in with blood oozing out of her scalp where I had previously sewn the tracks. Dried up blood was all over her very light blonde hair. Thank God for the latex gloves that I always kept in my drawer. On top of that, I had to bleach her black roots blonde, which was the reason she got beat in the first place. When I initially did the extensions, she didn't want color. She said she would let it go for a couple of more weeks. Well, when her man saw it, he was upset because he gave her enough money to get the color service. And since it wasn't done, he felt like she was out of pocket for not using the money for what he had told her to use it for. I mean, seriously, it wasn't that noticeable. She could have gone another 2 weeks. I did her roots every 3 to 4 weeks. In my opinion, it didn't matter what he beat her up for this time because it was always some random reason he was knocking the hell out of her. It was his normal routine. But this time was probably the most brutal damage. I have seen her regularly mess the hell up. I felt as mentally abused as she felt physically abused to have to put that hair color close to her draining scalp. I sat there with her while she cried from the pain of it burning from her ripped scalp, as well as the emotional pain she was obviously suffering. So much blood had dried up in her hair that I couldn't even get it all out. Even though I was using gloves and frequently changing to new ones, I wasn't trying to get any blood or fluids on me. I mean, who knows what she had? She was a hooker, and a proud one at that. He had ripped so many of her tracks from her scalp. I only took out the ones that were hanging onto her hair, bonded them with hair glue to her head while I cried with her. I tried to lift her spirits with a little prayer and told her how to move out of the country, change her hair color, and leave this crazy life. I told her so many times to leave, and I tried to give her numbers and options of what she could do. But after a couple of years went by, I realized she had some sick fascination with his demoralization of her. Apparently, she was satisfied with his beatings. She always had a million excuses why it happened that time, like, "I know to never talk to him before he smokes a blunt." I knew what I said was backfiring. I didn't want to have to deal with him one day because she was totally down for him. I finally learned. I told her to just keep her mouth closed and do what he says so that she could live. But that night, it was different to me. And it was the last time I saw her again. Whew. It's deep how someone's life experience can affect your life experience so much that you make choices based on what they have been through. And that's why I'm leaving it all here on paper. I am releasing myself from this mental bondage I have held on to. One thing I can say about Nina is she taught me a lot about some men, and along with it, a closed mouth don't get fed. Meaning, if you want to get paid or get anything in life, you better speak up. Our first visit, Nina had been recommended to me by whom, I don't know. She heard on the street that I was good at extensions and she wanted to get individual strand by strand keratin tips connected to her hair. What had happened was she was at home coloring her hair blonde with straight hair bleach for a platinum color, and she fell asleep for 5 hours with it on. Luckily for her, the hair color brand she told me she had used had stopped processing after an hour and a half, so only half of her hair fell out. There was just enough left to attach the extension she wanted. Nina was a white girl with these amazing ice blue eyes that had this look of excitement in them.